I told you it wasn't going to be long before maybe some bad news was going to enter the scene here. Of course, it's again, hey, Rick, this is Ricky. You know, I'll put everything back in some kind of order here. We're on chapter 3 now of this really wonderful book. And we're finding out, and I'm going to have to do some, I'm going to pre-adjust your ears to the story. Instead of going right off into some kind of intervention, he's sitting there in the bed, a little troubled, stuff like that. So, you know, this is, he has seen the destruction of the city. And that means, you know, the temple and all that stuff. Everybody's being scattered. He's in Babylon. He's captive. So while he's in here, and remember now, they're all in the Medes. They're like trapped inside. So they're all. It's all about the spiritual side of us. So, anyways, they're all caught in this middle line, this lineup, and he's in there thinking, Jesus Lord, you know, what's going on? I have seen so many terrible things since I have been here. It would make you just go crazy. You know, of course, we know God sees everything. But he's given him a testimony that, what is it that about these other people? They're obviously not following your commandments. They're not doing the way. They don't give a damn. And yet they are rich and prosperous and having a great old time. You know, and it's like, I don't get it. I'm looking at the Holy Land being laid to waste, and then I'm looking at Babylon and the rich people, and all this is going on. What the hell? What's going on? And you promise us rich. What is this? You are giving them the best of things, you know? I mean, they're not. They've got everything going on for them. You know, what's going on? And see, even later on, I'll show you on the chart here. It's like, do they know you too? Is there something that you're not telling me? Do they got like an inside connection? Something like that? Because, you know, looks like they're doing great. They have, you know, so it's very interesting how the story goes. But it's really leaving it up as a question towards the end, because it's going through a rundown of, you know, hey, Noah's flood, and you saved him. And then then it comes on to, like, you know, with Abraham. Clearly states in here that you just came down for him and not for all those other people, his people. It'd be like the same way with they pull out Moses. Was it Moses? I'm not so sure about Moses yet. But in my own knowledge of our Bible, Moses is the only one that gets saved in that whole bunch. Even though he says he's making my people free, he doesn't bring anybody with him. All these stories are about an individual going and taking back what was his, you know, and then finding this place, building this temple back to God, and then surviving off of it in some way that it becomes your nourishment, what comes inside of you. And all this rest of this business that we're talking about today is being looked at as very literal, what is on the outside. And so you'll find that what they're talking most of the time about is this wicked heart. You know, this comes about by the woman. Okay. She's not being mentioned much in this part. Okay. But let's back out. I'm going back out so you can see what's going down here. I now have taken different sides on the sides of our brain that we're going to call the left side, which is our mind, which is often called earth. This is earth, all right? Babylon. That's Babylon. So everybody can put that in their mind. Say no place on earth. It's recognized as a place on earth. It's like a mixing pot of all kinds of business. That's our mind, okay? The lower mind. And what we're looking for is Zion, Mount Zion, Israel. You know, it's been plundered. You know, it's in ash heaps and stuff like that. It's a desolate place. It's been torn up. And this is the whole point of this whole story, is that they're captive and they're in Midian. They're in this group. And that Midian is, while they're still in mid-flight. They haven't gone over the seventh day or nothing like that. They're still, they're traveling. A lot of our Bible is about this traveling. That's why they got all these worlds in here. It's the coolest things on earth. All right, so in this grouping, in the third chapter, there's 9 sets. So we go to 36 scriptures. Again, on this idea of the 4 worlds, we get another batch of 4. It's the coolest things, you guys. On 19 is the beginning of situation. It's also our body. It's a physical part. They talk about the 4 gates. This is the fire, and the air and the wind. But this is the 4 the earth, wind, and fire, and all that business. It's the 4 phases of consciousness. That's where that shows up, and that's what the Bible, or what the body has to go through. It's the Bible has to go through the 4 stages, goes through the 4 gates. And then they're introducing the wicked heart. This is 20 down on here now. And the other 20, we got, this was where we're supposed to be nice to the widow. And the widow is someone who doesn't have their spouse. And so it's meaning you're missing something. You're missing God. You're not connected. Also, this is where the poor is. If you're on this side, you're poor. You're without God. So what it means in this one here is this introduction of the wicked heart. Okay, and the wicked heart is here with the emotions. Okay, it's introduced over here. It's introduced up here in 20 because it's you fell for. This is where your problems came from, being lower. You went to the lower side of something. You started doing something, transgressed against God's commands. Oh, and I don't know what they're talking about in here somewhere, but it's like Adam and Eve or something like that. But anyways, as they went through the stories, we would go through number 25. 7 is the Lord's Day. Now we've got, instead of the Lord's Day, this is when the city became captive. And this is where we got the people received their wicked heart. And 27, which is 9, a conscious number, God gives Israel to the hands of its captives. That's the whole point of this, okay? And then it's like, when we come on down, we get to 29. In 29, they have when you hear the 13th year, I've had so much shit. I've been through 13 years of this. He's describing, what is that? 13 is 1. And so you're going to have to take and replace the word with world. It's such an evil world, right? They just hit it for some reason because, these reading this book, you can tell why Pope pulled this out of the Bible about 300 years ago, because we got a little smarter. This gives away the whole shaboom, all right? So this is number 29. I want you to listen for that. When he talks about that 13th year, you'll hear that you can fit the world right in there, because that's what it's talking about. We know that this is about worlds. Number 32 down here, it says this is where he's like, God, who else knows you, who else is on your side? Who is giving these guys the best of things? They must have an end. They must have it in. Do they? It's kind of strange. It's funny. It's interesting, but this is mankind. Look how beautiful and wonderful. Oh my God. This is the whole reason behind they get snagged on this. This is what they got caught up in it. This is what happened with Adam. It's what happens to these people that fall. Is that they went for the lower. They went for the lower fruit, But anyways, that's how that works. So here, let's move right on in to the story.
In the 30th year after the destruction of our city, I, Salathiel, who am also called Ezra, was in Babylon. I was troubled as I lay on my bed, and my thoughts welled up in my heart, because I saw the desolation of Zion and the wealth of those who lived in Babylon. My spirit was greatly agitated, and I began to speak anxious words to the Most High, and said, O sovereign Lord, didst thou not speak at the beginning, when thou didst form the earth, and that without help, and didst command the dust, and it gave thee, Adam, a lifeless body? Yet he was the workmanship of thy hands, and thou didst breathe into him the breath of life, and he was made alive in thy presence. And thou didst lead him into the garden which thy right hand had planted before the earth appeared. And thou didst lay upon him one commandment of thine, but he transgressed it. And immediately thou didst appoint death for him and for his descendants. From him there sprang nations and tribes and peoples and clans without number.
Somewhere here.
And every nation walked after its own will and did ungodly things before thee, and scorned thee, and thou didst not hinder them. But again in its time thou didst bring the flood upon the inhabitants of the world, and destroy them. And the same fate befell them as death came upon Adam, so the flood upon them. But thou didst leave one of them, Noah with his household, and all the righteous who have descended from him. When those who dwelt on earth began to multiply, they produced children and peoples and many nations. And again they began to be more ungodly than were their ancestors. And when they were committing iniquity before thee, thou didst choose for thyself one of them, whose name was Abraham. And thou didst love him, and to him only didst thou reveal the end of the times, secretly by night. Thou didst make with him an everlasting covenant, and promise him that thou wouldst never forsake his descendants. And thou gavest to him Isaac, and to Isaac thou gavest Jacob and Esau. And thou didst set apart Jacob for thyself, but Esau thou didst reject, and Jacob became a great multitude. And when thou didst lead his descendants out of Egypt, thou didst bring them to Mount Sinai. Thou didst bend down the heavens, shake the earth, and move the world, and make the depths to tremble and trouble the times.
So that's
And thy glory passed through the four gates of fire, and earthquake, and wind, and ice, to give the law to the descendants of Jacob, and thy commandment to the posterity of Israel. Yet thou didst not take away from them their evil heart, so that thy law might bring forth fruit in them. For the first Adam, burdened with an evil heart, transgressed and was overcome, as were also all who were descended from him. Thus the disease became permanent. The law was in the people's heart along with the evil root, but what was good departed, and the evil remained. So the times passed and the years were completed, and thou didst raise up for thyself a servant named David. And thou didst command him to build a city for thy name, and in it to offer thee oblations from what is thine. This was done for many years, but the inhabitants of the city transgressed, in everything doing as Adam and all his descendants had done, for they also had the evil heart. So thou didst deliver the city into the hands of thy enemies. Then I said in my heart, are the deeds of those who inhabit Babylon any better? Is that why she has gained dominion over Zion? For when I came here, I saw ungodly deeds without number, and my soul has seen many sinners during these 30 years, and my heart failed me. For I have seen how thou dost endure those who sin, and hast spared those who act wickedly, and hast destroyed thy people, and hast preserved thy enemies, and hast not shown to anyone how thy way may be comprehended. Are the deeds of Babylon better than those of Zion? Or has another nation known thee besides Israel? Or what tribes have so believed thy covenants as these tribes of Jacob? Yet their reward has not appeared, and their labor has borne no fruit. For I have traveled widely among the nations, and have seen that they abound in wealth, though they are unmindful of thy commandments. Now therefore weigh in a balance our iniquities, and those of the inhabitants of the world, and so it will be found which way the turn of the scale will incline. When have the inhabitants of the earth not sinned in thy sight? Or what nation has kept thy commandments so well? Thou mayest indeed find individual men who have kept thy commandments, but nations thou wilt not find.
That is the end of that. You will find individual nations that will do it, but you will not find uh, uh, what. Let's do that again. Down here at the very end, 36, which is a 9. Thou shalt find that Israel by name has kept thy precepts, but not thy heathen. And so this is number 36. It's showing that it is an individual thing. It's not about the nations and stuff like that. This is the middle part here. This part is the 13th world. That's what we got here on this one here. Which one? Number 29. I heard a discrepancy. Oh, it says the 30th year. Can you believe that? It says 30th year. So 30, well, it's still part of the world's 30th year. I thought I saw 13th, but you know, it sure did look like it. Sure does now, but it's 30th for sure. 30th is 3 is cool. So you don't need to have this 4. We don't have to talk about that. It doesn't mean it's about world. But the 30th, you know, he's in this intervention situation, even from the last part. He was being introduced to mother and all this business, you know. So he's in the midst. He's on his way to this particular place. Plus, he's troubled. This whole thing is, he's asked God, what the hell's going on? I don't get this, you know. How is it that, you know, you could have all these beautiful things happen to the people that are on the outside, these wicked people? I just don't get it. And that's where he's at right now. So he's stuck on this ladder. As far as the story is concerned, he's stuck on the ladder. How is it that Babylon is getting it where, you know, the homeland doesn't get anything? You know, how is it that it's better than Zion? You know, that's what he's saying. How is Babylon better than Zion? And he's in the spot where he just threw all these questions up at God. And he's like, how about that? Why this? Why is that? How come it is? You know, you've delivered us right into the hands of our enemies. You know, that thou did this. You know, I don't, why? What is going on? How is it that they keep getting all the spoils? How is this going on? Is it, oh, and you say, well, if they have this wicked heart, they transgress, they'll learn to fear God? I don't understand, you know, and a lot of us get in that spot. He says, here we are, it says 13, which is a 4. Now, when they had lived so wickedly before thee, thou didst choose thee a man among them, whose name is Abraham. Should have said Abram. Him thou lovest, and unto him only thou showest thy will. So I exits everybody else out of this business. All right. And made us an everlasting covenant with him, promising him thou wouldst never forsake his seed. And unto him thou gavest Isaac, and Isaac also gave us Jacob and Esau. As for this is where it would show up, number 16. Number 16, this is this is the 2. Isaac, Jacob, let me get this going. Let me tell you. Isaac also thou gave us Jacob and Esau. As for Jacob, those are twins. Okay. These guys here, there are Jacob is representing let me get to the right place on here. Esau is representing the left side of our mind, while Jacob is the right side of our mind. This would also be in conjunction with, if this were Cain, this would be Esau. And Abel is the spiritual side, like Jacob is the spiritual side. Jacob in this story, because of course in Adam and Eve, and their children's children, they all, everyone that came down from them, were dead. Jacob is this idea that he created everything else. He was the great multitude. And of course, Jacob has all these kids. Now, the way the story is going to work out is that, you're not supposed to, Esau is the beginning of our lives. Esau is, if you listen to the name Esau, it sounds like the name of a donkey, or what a noise makes a donkey makes. He represents the first world that we're in. That's him and this evil woman and all this other stuff. The curse and everything. That's the first world. That's that's the first things that we have to deal with. Now, then would be coming Isaac. Who's no. Jacob is the second part. Goodness gracious. Jacob becomes the finished part of this story. All right. This is the whole idea. Like at the beginning, to make a comparison, Abram was the beginning. Abraham was him with God. His wife, Sarai, that's the beginning, and Sarah with the H. It's the end. There's the beginning. There's your works. You got to do all that stuff first. And when you find this place inside you, does all this wonderful stuff happen to you. But here we are in third, where we thought that we'd be getting into some mean intervention here, or some, kind of intervention. But it's not. We're in limbo here. We're still in limbo. We're in the shady place. Okay. Now, did we want to look at these other worlds to see what makes up, like 13, number 13 here? When they introduce Abraham, let's see where he falls in here. Number 13. Now, when they lived so wickedly before thee, this would be when they lived so wickedly before thee. Let's see how it's going to work out. Because these are really quick. Now, when they lived so wickedly before thee, thou didst choose thee a man among them, whose name is Abraham. Okay, here we go. Now when they lived so wickedly before thee, you chose a man, and his name was Abraham. Because, Abraham is the father of many. This is that's a positive sign. Let's see what this one here says for 14. Okay. Him thou loves, and unto him only thou showest thy will. Okay. So let's see how that gets cut up. Him thou lovest. Where we at? Him thou lovest, and unto him only thou showest thy will, God's will. So that's split up pretty nice. And unto him only you showest love. And now when we get here, 15, and madest an everlasting covenant with him, promising him that thou wouldest never forsake his seed. And madest an everlasting covenant with him. And made an everlasting covenant with him. Let's see if that works. And made an everlasting covenant with him. Promising him that thou wilt never forsake his seed. Somehow or another that works. All right, let's do it one more time. Oh, well, it was coming from the seed. It was coming from this one here. This is where the seed would come from, is ourself. 16, this last one. And unto him gave us Isaac, and unto Isaac also thou gavest Jacob and Esau. And as for Jacob, thou didst choose him to thee, and put Esau and Jacob became the multitudes. This is where they get mixed up in number 16, the very end of it. the left and the right side of our minds. This would be, a combination of, because remember, this says Esau is the older brother, and the younger one, Jacob, has a hold of his heel. The head comes out first, his older brother comes out first, and he comes out later. He's holding on to his heel, and it's from his hand to his heel. This is just really interesting how the structure of these stories, how they work around this interesting concept of what has to come first, the works, and the lower mind gets to rule over for a while, and then connected by hand to the guy's foot. Do you from the works, after the works are done, do you get to cross to this other side, the beautiful side? Okay, I thought we did very well with that. So let's bring you back on, and there you are. Listen, you can second check me all you want on this, but we just understood here that we're in a process of why is it that you think that this is better than that, and of course these stories of why'd you bring us out into the wilderness only to kill us? It's better off that we stayed in captivity than to come out here in the wilderness and be killed, So these are the same ideas of what's going on, Why don't I just go ahead and do what everyone else is doing and not give a damn, Because look how good they have it on. They got it going on. Somehow or another, they're connected to God. We're going to find out more than this. This story that we're finding in this Bible, that's not in our Bible, is one of the most revealing scriptures I've ever read in my life so far. Besides Corinthians, that was pretty cool. That's one of those, hey, you guys, those that made it over to the other side, welcome over here. So there's not a whole lot of that going on. Maybe in Romans, But most of these stories go, wah, wah. We're all going without. So here we are with these guys. They're all in the midst of things. We met all of them at the beginning of the story in number 1 in chapter. Remember? It was those guys from Levi, which are the ones that take care of the, God things, So that was the 6 chakras. Those were the first ones. And who else? They brought all the brethren along with them. 12 other spirits came along with them. Okay, that was the body, came along with them. So you're seeing this as, you have the two again. You have the spiritual side represented as the second one, our emotions and heaven and stuff like that. That's that side of the mind, And then we've got, the land side, this one over here. This is the other side. It's just so really cool how these are all working out. It's always about these two. And what can we do to bring them together, And of course, we're getting this Babylon business, this captive business going on. And when you have that going on, so what is it that, hell out here, this business of hell, they're having a great old time. Well, it's just the way he's viewing it at this time. And I'm sure that's what we're going to hear. I haven't gone ahead of us. I'm learning this as we do that. Right now, when I'm getting off this thing, I'm going to edit it. I'm not going to edit it. Does it look like I edited anything? Hell no. I'm going to upload it, get it started on its way, and then I will check out the next chapter. Okay? So it's as new to me as it is to you whenever I do it. But I'll tell you this ahead of time. It looks like it's going to be another one of these. This world thing is going all through it. All through it. You should have recognized. It's on the way down here, this conscious area. It says, how is it that they're doing such a great time? This outside world. These outside people. How is it they're doing so good? All right. It just may look that way to some people. All righty. So I'm moving right on through this because I got the time. All right. I may stop and get something to eat. All right. I love you guys. I'll see you in a little bit.